when I'm ready, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Morning, everybody. Enter the stars, and welcome to the show. We got a special show today. We're going to get a perspective from a longtime friend on what's going on in the United Kingdom. He's just going to give us a full update on everything that's been going on, his daily life, how life has changed from before and after CV-19, and we're going to get some updates on Brexit and a lot of things that you guys might not have heard of from our American perspective. Now, there's a lot going on over there, and they've got it probably a little bit worse than we do here in the States because they're landlocked. There's really no way off the big island of the United Kingdom, and even more so for some of the northern countries like Scotland and Ireland up there that are also on smaller islands. So this is going to be a very interesting show. I'm going to introduce Mark. His link to his channel is Yahuwah's Word is King, and I put that in the pinned comment so that you can click on that and subscribe to his channel. And I'll let him kind of explain what he does on his channel as I introduce him this morning. Hey, Mark, how are you? Good morning.
Hi. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hello again. Hope everybody's doing well. And, getting over the holiday season that is just rolled out.
Yeah. You guys are under some pretty intense stay-at-home orders. What exactly are they telling you to do, Mark?
Pretty much here it's been a roller coaster ride, really, since way back in the beginning of 2019 when this all kicked off. One week you're up and the next week you're down, and whether that's in terms of restrictions or you know uh, you know as an individual person, um, in their life, in their workplace, or in their mental state, really it's a real roller coaster of a ride. And you don't know what's around the next turn or bend or anything. They pretty much intend it to be that way, I think.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the only that's the only way I can come up with it. Anyway,
yeah, it's
it's
very
organized chaos, really.
yeah, it's very draconian. Now, are you allowed? Are the children in school? What's going on with the schools there?
The schools, well, at the moment, where most of the country is on like a holiday break over the festive season, and I think I just saw today that like in if you're in a year where they're actually taking examinations or that kind of thing, then you go back from the 4th of January, I think.
Mhm.
And if you're in years where you're not doing exams, then you're advised to stay at home until like a week or so later, I think.
But
And
they are going
primary
to go
schools
back
as
though.
well.
They are going.
Um, yeah, oh, yeah. I think the main train of thought with that is to eventually get everybody back again, like they were just before the holiday season.
Mhm.
Um, Even though depending what camp you sort of come from, you can come from the train of thought that mixing a whole bunch of kids in the same room and the same building and complex for like 5 days a week is not good
Right.
basis for isolating the CV thing,
Hmm.
or as they do. Well, we all need to keep filling our heads full of agenda and you know what we need to um, make our lives perfect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Now you homeschool one of your daughters,
yeah.
and do a lot of parents in England homeschool their children, or are you kind of like a rare person?
Um, no, I think there's an increasing amount of people that before this uh, whole thing, the CV thing became a thing. I think more people were actually heading down that route.
Yeah.
Um, they they either lost faith in the education system, or the way it was actually being pushed out.
Yeah.
Because in my own experience with my own children, they seem to kind of just want everybody to be be kind of so expert in every specific subject.
Right.
And some people some people can do that, I suppose. If you're academic enough to do that, then you can. But to generalize, most people aren't. We may excel in certain areas. I know yourself, you're pretty good on math and that kind of thing. um, but everybody else, um, in my experience anyway, they're just good at certain subjects and that's it. But to try and push a whole like generation of children to be experts on everything, it's like a pipe dream.
Right. And the way the tide is moving in the public schools, it's away from Jesus and God, and but you get to give your daughter the slant from the believer angle, right? And so that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for anybody who hasn't had any experience of homeschooling, I mean, I never had beforehand. I went to mainstream school up until like uh, 11th grade or whatever it is, when you take your exams and then you're out in the big wide world and off to, either college or university or whatever. So, yeah, well, homeschooling for me, um, we had like certain issues at the school where they were more um, promoting the image of the school.
Hmm.
And it was a uniform thing, and it was a you have to abide by our rules to basically keep the money rolling into that specific school, and make the whole image of the school the thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they get their subsidies pulled, right?
Yeah.
So um, I just I'd had enough of it. Um, and me and the wife sort of agreed that it wasn't it wasn't doing any good for our daughter, because she was being kind of picked on. Um,
Like so many other kids, right? Children,
yeah,
they get picked
yeah,
on, and there's no mechanism to stop that from happening. It's almost as if the
right.
schools allow it to happen.
Yeah, and she's kind of like a sensitive kid. She was then, and probably she still is, which is probably not a bad thing. It's otherwise you tend to be a kind of a crunchy armadillo type sort of person. Kind
Yeah.
of crunchy on the outside and hard on the inside. So
Yeah. Get hardened. Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah. So we didn't want that for her. We wanted her to stay as she was. She was always smiling and laughing, and even now, I mean, with the homeschooling and the isolation that the CV has brought upon a household, she she has kind of withdrawn in herself, even though, as most youngsters are nowadays, they're constantly like attached to a device or social media or something. So um, in one way, social media is kind of like a bit of a sort of a gift, really, because it enables people in this current climate to still interact and socialize with their like um, other children, you know,
Right, right. Well, let me,
same as we guys do, you know.
yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So, it was weird when they announced this lockdown for CV in your country in the UK. What didn't that
Mm.
fall on some weird date that we had been talking about? What was the date that that started?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's been so many, but I mean, off the top of my head, I can remember March the 13th was one.
Yeah.
Then there was the a later one in the year, which I think it fell on. Didn't it fall on Halloween or something?
Yeah, and then one didn't one
Yeah.
fall right? I think it fell right on the eclipse, on the December
Right.
14th eclipse.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the December eclipse one. Yeah. So, I
Wow.
mean, hmm, some people could say you know, if we wear tinfoil hats for too long, you kind of see things that are not really there. But the numbers and the dates, as you know, speak for themselves, and there's no getting away from it at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah, and it's weird how what goes over there goes over here. Like it's all the
Yeah.
same. It's just a matter of time before they roll it out. And I also see
Hmm.
an angle to that with France as well. France will often roll things out,
Right.
in conjunction with the UK and the
Yeah.
United States. It's all very controlled. It's very well thought out. I heard the other
Hmm.
day that Macron, or was it Macron? Or someone else said, we
Right.
will not force VCs. And it was exactly what Trump said. It was a single statement. So it's almost like these people are
Yeah.
scripted.
Oh, yeah. Pretty much. They kind of like just hand the script around. You know, it's like who's got the rollout date paper this month. You know.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that
You
crazy?
know,
So now,
they're all reading from the same script, basically. I believe anyway.
me too, me too. The same script under Lucifer,
Hmm.
who actually rules the world. So
Right.
on the day to day stuff, you're pretty much confined to your little village, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a kind of a small town, you know, so I pretty much most of my working uh, week is in within that like small area, you know, within like 5 kilometers or something. So I'm fairly fortunate of that, um, and I don't have to travel too far. So um, I can't really talk on having to commute or anything, but on the odd occasion that I have had to go, you know, maybe, I don't know, 50, 100 kilometers or something, the roads are generally a lot quieter than they were before
Yeah.
the whole CV thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know whether you get like rush hour jam ups and things like that. I assume you do, but
Yeah.
they don't, because where that would have been like the highlight of the news story, you know, unless somebody had done a murder or a robbery or something,
Mhm.
um, that was their main focus. But now, because their whole fixation is on like the health system and the ambulances being overrun and Medicare being pushed and,
Yeah.
you know, vaccines rolled out and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It's the whole focus has been shifted to that really.
Right.
So we don't really get everyday news items
Yeah.
thrust in our faces all the
Yeah.
time.
So most people live close to London, right? In the UK, is that how it's kind of laid out?
Well, it's kind of like uh, it's hard to describe really, but we have the same as you guys do. You know, you have built up areas and the suburbs and things like that, and they kind of spread out from a central hub. So any major big city in the UK um, is, you know, has a population of in the millions, I
Mhm.
suppose,
Yeah.
and they're divided up into counties and areas the same as you guys have,
Yeah.
you know, with
But
the
like if
county sheriffs and things like
like
that.
you're kind of far from London, but when you go to the doctor,
Yeah,
you got to go all the way into London, right?
we're about 60 miles or so
Oh, that's not too far.
from from London itself, the capital.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we've been put in. I don't know whether you have like a tier system. They've called it like a tier system over here, where when they first initially sort of went over to that kind of way of thinking, we were divided. Some areas might be in a low one, where it was still, you were still able to do certain things, but you might be bordering on a area that was in the higher one, or something like that. And in some rare cases, there was ones where you were from a really low tier number, let's say 1, bordering on a tier 4 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even been as ridiculous as, I heard a story from a guy the other day where I work at, and he was telling me that his relation lives in a village further up north in the country, kind of Yorkshire or something. And so the small town had the main street that run through the middle, and they had pubs and restaurants and shops on either side of this main street that run through the town.
Mm-hmm.
But some people were in where the distinctive line was the white line that runs down the middle of the road. That was the border point,
Mm-hmm.
running down the center of this specific village. So people from one side couldn't go into their pub or into certain shops that were selling non-essential items and such like, but the people on the other side of the white line of that central road could do all of the things that the other side wasn't allowed.
Right.
So
Right.
that's just the virus can actually determine that there's a white line running down the center of a town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if
And
you
it's the ludicrousy of the whole thing.
Yeah. So, if you guys are just tuning in, this is Mark. He lives in the UK. He's just giving us some updates. Later in the show, we're going to get into Brexit. Mark's going to talk a little bit about Brexit and what that's going to mean for them. Then we're going to also talk about Mark's channel a little bit. And before we get into that, I just want to also give you guys another perspective about Mark, and that is how we met. We met, gosh, it's been like 4 years ago, right, Mark?
Yeah, it was 2016, I think, early part of 2016.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so basically, Mark was a subscriber. He'd been listening to the channel for a couple years at that point, and he reached out to me and he asked me if I'd be interested in helping him to manage some of these properties out in France that his dad owned. And so I agreed to do that, and I ended up spending 2 years in France at these properties. And then sadly, Mark's father passed away during that time. And so at that point, Mark would come and visit, several times throughout the year and bring food. And we'd travel around. We'd fix on the properties. We installed a chimney and just did a lot of work, a lot of plumbing work. So I learned a lot of stuff from Mark because he's kind of a carpenter. He does a lot of carpentry and fixing on homes and things. And that's what he does kind of by trade too, gardening and carpentry. So that's how I know Mark, and we just became best friends, friends for life. So that's why I wanted to have him on the show, because I trust his perspective on what's going on over there in the UK. So, Mark, is there anything you want to add to that? And then you can start getting into Brexit if you want.
No, I think those that are familiar with it would probably know our little history story anyway. But anybody who doesn't, they can find the French story on your channel in previous videos. And like you spoke of earlier, when you were talking about maybe doing a compilation of the best parts or something. So
Yeah,
maybe that'll materialize.
yeah, that'll be
So
great.
that would give people a kind of a background on it. But
Yeah, the
yeah,
world's
they were
changed.
great times.
Yeah,
Great times,
the
even though
world.
there were sad times.
Yeah, yeah, it was yeah, that was rough when your father passed away, and But God is amazing. He puts people in our lives. I know I was on a
Certainly
spiritual
does.
journey, and you were on a spiritual journey.
Yeah, mine had just started, like I say, back in 2015 when I had that road traffic accident,
Yeah,
knocked off my motorcycle, and then my father got uh, sick with cancer, and so at the same time, when I was finding my heavenly father, my earthly father was checking out, kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's kind of like a bit of an exchange there, and that's the big part of my walk. On my channel, it's you hopefully people end up walking the spiritual path rather than the earthly path, and that's what we're all about, right?
right. Yep, exactly. Now, yeah. So, what was I gonna? Oh, I guess we can start getting into Brexit. So,
Mm.
what's going on with that? What tell us from the beginning, kind of how this started and where it is now, and what does that mean for the economy?
Right, Brexit. Well, uh, in a way, it's kind of like on a par with how you guys had the independence war of independence back in the day, with the Boston Tea Party trying to separate yourselves away from the UK, back in the day of um, all those troubles that they were having, with the import duties and tax on tea and tax on whatever,
Hmm.
And so we're on the same sort of thing over here. Um, the difference is we're battling or were um, against rules and regulations from the European Union, the main European countries, that are all part and parcel of that whole thing, which stemmed from um, like the common market, which was a thing back before my day when I was still running around in shorts, um, which I'm one of those people who voted to come out of Europe because, for one thing, I never voted to go in. So, uh, it's kind of like you applying your choice,
Right.
Um,
What I'm wondering is how you guys were able to maintain your monetary system, like the pound, your units of
uh,
money versus the euro, where everybody else had
yeah.
to go into the euro. What's that about?
Well, I don't know. The only thing I can put that down to is kind of like the pound has been around for a long time, way before the euro and the dollar even. So, it's one of the oldest, let's say, European currencies, I suppose. So something's got to give before that gives, I suppose, is their way of thinking. I mean, money matters little to me, so
Hmm.
they could be dealing in Smarties or Snicker bars. All I care about money.
Yeah.
So, they do what they do with money and apply a, you know, big folder full of pages of writing that some guy has to or girl has to compile, which regulates more people in more ways, and that's all. You know the
Yeah.
trick.
But how were they able to hold on to how were that? Why didn't they switch to euros though from pounds?
I don't know. Well, that I think was they were pushing for that, I believe, a little while back, but then we kind of made a stand and still wanted to keep the pound as a currency, but also running concurrently with using the euro. And then I think a few years back, I think it was about 3 or so years back, um, they they gave us the vote on whether we wanted to actually be governed in the UK by ourselves again, rather than having these ridiculous bureaucratic rules that Brussels was actually forcing us to conform with, like
Yeah.
straight cucumbers
Yeah.
and
For people that don't know,
perfectly round apples and
for
pears.
yeah, for people that don't know, Brussels is the center for control of the European Union. They make all the rules, and it's kind of weird
Yeah.
and bizarre and very secretive. Nobody really knows the group that's doing it, but that is the center of control. Now we got a couple questions in the chat. Someone asked, "Do they punish for the lockdowns if you break the lockdowns?
Sorry, say again.
Do they punish people for breaking the lockdowns, and how do they punish you?"
Oh yeah. Well, there's fines. I think the maximum fine is like £6,000 or something for um, offending uh, the the rules in certain ways. I don't know specifically what you have to do. Maybe you have to be like a repeat offender or something and just
Mhm.
basically deny doing anything that they ask you to. But
Mhm.
uh, I don't know. I mean, there's
Do,
probably a different scale of you know
like if you don't wear a mask, will they
right.
fine you?
I think shops can ban you. Shops can ban you or like refuse to serve you or something like that. But um, I haven't worn a mask since the beginning, so I'm quite proud to say I haven't actually had to wear one.
Yeah.
I've been in a few shops and stores, and I just walk in, and uh, I've haven't had anybody approach me, but um, I'm there ready with my um, um, you know pack of information that I can pass on to them if they want to know. But
Yeah. Has anyone
um,
fined you or messed with you at all or
no,
confronted you?
no,
None of that. Are,
not myself personally. No.
are most people wearing masks out in public, or
Oh yeah, oh
most
yeah,
almost everybody? Then okay. Yeah.
almost everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are they talking about any kind of mandatory VCs at all? Has that been coming up in the news? What is the general sentiment, in your opinion, of the percentage of people who would even take a VC just in the general public?
Um, well, I suppose I'd have to distinguish between people who follow mainstream and people who are kind of a bit awake.
Mhm.
And I must say that since the beginning of uh, the CV thing, I've noticed in the comment sections and places like that that people are waking up more than they actually want people to wake up.
Mm,
So people do realize that something ain't right.
right.
Something's fishy,
Yeah.
and so
People are kind of
yeah,
onto it, but as this goes on, the longer and longer that it goes on, people are getting more and more suspicious. Would you agree with that?
yes, I would. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
because it doesn't add up. I mean, excuse me. Earlier on, they were saying that like they changed the rules. The goalposts are constantly being moved. They would say like, "Oh, it doesn't affect children." It's affecting old people of different ethnicities and things like that. And then as time rolls on, it is spread by the young people. They're the ones causing the problem. So we have to do something about the young people and things like that. But yet we can still send them to school because we need to send them and fill their heads with
yeah.
baloney.
Brainwashing.
Yeah.
Now, you guys
Yeah.
they just rolled out this new strain. I almost forgot to mention that. And that was probably the most important part of the
Oh, the
show.
new strain. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Well, I haven't actually seen one. I haven't actually seen a strain of the old one, really. And the amazing thing is that, I know it's like the old adage that nobody knows anybody who's actually um, knows anybody who's knows anybody, but
Hmm.
I don't know anybody. And they probably just used the fear. I think, the fear is the main thing that they're hoping will pull their little game
Yeah.
off.
So what are they? So they're saying, oh, we got a new strain, and that's why they brought you guys into this new tier of lockdown, right? And
Oh yeah,
are they
new
saying
tier.
the VCs that they're rolling out now are going to fix this new strain, or like what are they saying about that?
Well, the new strain. I heard the what was his name now? Matt Hancock, the top guy, who's generally rolled out to give a new bit of information, and he was saying that they're able to control the virus now, but they're just worried about stopping the spread of the virus.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So regarding the
the new
new
strain.
strain, but what I tend to think about that is that, from my understanding of all of this, the virus that they're talking about when they say the virus is generally the population.
Yeah.
So if you replace virus with population, and they can control the population virus and stop the spread of the population virus, which are all things that they've actually done. They've
Mm-hmm.
stopped the spread of us because we can't go anywhere.
Yeah,
We can't.
we are the virus. That's
We are the
exactly
virus that they want to control and suppress and eliminate in certain cases. I mean, why would they want to target the elderly population?
right.
I mean, we all have elderly relatives and friends and neighbors and things like that, but it's like we need like old guinea pigs, to do the experiment on first.
Right, right. Someone asked about you were talking earlier about the borders being locked down and all of the lorries. Well, a lorry, just in case you guys don't know, is the English vernacular for a truck. And so those are
All
all
right.
sitting at the border. Talk about exactly how your travel has been affected. Like you can't even go to France to the property anymore,
Uh-huh.
and all of that, and the flights and all that. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the roads have been as they normally are, just coming up to the holiday period. They've pretty much at their busiest anyway, in terms of distribution. So we had a big build-up of European, um, like truck and trailer um, lines down at the border ports, down in Dover and places like that. And it got so bad that they actually had to open like up an airfield,
Wow.
and a local nearby airfield. And they at one time they had, I think it was around 4,000 different like truck and trailer units stacked up in this one airfield
Mm-hmm.
place. And so then they were saying that they needed to make sure that all of the drivers of the units were all clear to go onto the ferry to get back into Europe.
Did they let him go though, or did they just shut the ferry down?
Well, this was like 2 days before Christmas
Oh.
Day, so it was all getting a bit kind of tense down there, and I think there was one or two standoffs with the police and port authorities and things like that, because the poor guys just want to get home, but I think it's cleared now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they managed to clear it, but it's a rough deal for people who are just doing their job.
Yeah. So the border's pretty much closed though, right?
Well, I believe they have relaxed the restrictions that they had originally Macron had put on, because he shut it completely so
Mm-hmm.
that nobody could fly, nobody could enter France from the UK, and I think there was quite a few other European and worldwide countries that adopted that same thing because of the new strain,
Hmm. Oh
new
wow.
strain of
So
virus. People that don't want to comply.
how about
That strain.
yeah, how about the ferry going in and out of France, like the one that you normally take? That's still shut down, right?
That one, yeah, that runs from Portsmouth, which is like on the south coast.
Uh-huh.
Um, I because like I get a reduced like membership with that. I pay like yearly to bring the cost down, and so they notify you by email that they're when your membership is up, and they notified me a little while. Bearing in mind they haven't been operating since early in last year,
Yeah, it's been
or
shut down the whole
this year.
year.
So
It's been shut
yeah,
down.
so they haven't been doing any trips apart from like commercial freight trips,
Oh, I see. So
general public
so leisure
passengers.
travel is pretty much shut down.
Pretty much, yeah. It's
Yeah.
all like trade routes, really.
Yeah, just to
They're
keep
the
everything
only
going.
things that operate and
It
keep
remind
everything moving.
it reminds me of Escape from New York or Escape from LA, you know, those movies where they put the
Yeah,
containment wall around the island and they put everybody inside and there's no
that's it.
escape.
Pretty much.
Man. Somebody asked about GUN rights, and we're just gonna anytime you say the word GUN, just spell it like I just did. Um, and
Right.
I know that well, I'll let you because I'm not sure what
Right.
the
Okay.
yeah,
In relating to what?
just like
What?
compared to the United States, like
Oh,
where,
okay.
yeah, like what are you allowed to own? Under
Uh,
what circumstances? Is there any hunting?
okay. Yeah. There was. There was, and there's still fish, I believe, in the rivers and things like that. But in regards to actually legally possessing like a firearm and using it, and that you have to be like go for a strict regime of questions and a visit from the local enforcement agency, and uh, get like letters from respected people to be able even to be accepted, to actually own a license to get a thing that goes bang.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, I do, I, I did, I still have um, the ability to use them, even though the club that I actually go to is like fairly restricted at the moment because of this the social distancing, and that we have a it's only a small club, and I don't actually kill anything because that's against my principles. But I do like target shooting.
Yeah.
It's a historic uh, club.
So basically, you can only own a vintage. Is that the rule?
Yeah, pretty much. It has to be, yeah. Where you guys, you can pretty much buy whatever you like. You can be the real Arnie Rambo guy, and we just have to pretend to be somebody from like 1640 or something.
Right, right. So you're basically there's specific rules about the age of the GUN that you can own, and it's
Yeah.
only for target practice. Now, are you allowed to go on
Yeah.
hunts? Like if you wanted
No,
to, you're not allowed to.
no. Well, you can do with like if you're like uh, call it big game, but it's like generally deer hunting. People do deer hunting, and more so in like Scotland, I believe,
Hmm.
because although there are deer around in the southern parts of England, they're more up in the hills.
Right.
They 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 know where they know where it's safe,
So
supposedly.
as a person that owns a GUN, there is no hunting season where you can just generally go
No,
out into the countryside. See, and people in America need to know that because
right.
it's very
Yeah, I mean,
different
you
there,
can
you
have,
guys.
yeah, it is. Yeah, you can have, like, if you're a farmer or you have access to somebody with a bit of ground, then you can go shoot rabbits or pigeon or pheasant or something like that, grouse maybe if you're really well off. Um, so yeah, there are these places. Supposedly, in a perfect world, we should be able to do that, but of course, with all the restrictions, then that's all no go
Right.
at the
Wow.
moment. Yeah.
Now, this is where they want to take the United States. You guys make no mistake.
Yeah.
This is the future that they want. So at the end of the day, we can always look at these other neighboring countries and see what they want for us eventually. That's why I wanted Mark to give his perspective
Hmm.
specifically on what they're dealing with over there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much, we've got what they want to adopt in other parts of the world. Let's put it like that.
All right. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about your channel because I just want you to put it in your own words what you cover on your channel for people that are interested.
Okay. Basically, it's the word of the Most High, basically, in a nutshell. And the actual path, not not directly the path to it, but it's trying to help people find their way back
Mm-hmm.
to that place, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it all started with, like I say, my road traffic accident back in the day in 2015.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind, Mark. Tell us exactly what happened with your motorcycle accident.
Okay, yeah, I basically went over the top of an Audi A5 and hit the tarmac and broke my tibia and fibia in my left leg, and was out of action for best part of 18 months, going back, having numerous different surgeries and physiotherapy sessions
Mm-hmm.
to basically get be able to walk again, and that's kind of when I was put together with you, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
on that first trip to France, we I was still on crutches, I believe, wasn't I?
Yep. You were still walking with the cane, and you still had
Yeah,
the metal bar going through your lower leg.
yeah, and so I had to go back and have several like major surgeries on the leg to remove metalwork and correct things that hadn't gone according to plan. And while I had all this so-called spare time, I I wanted to occupy my time with something. So I ventured onto YouTube, and um, I'd already been watching Casey for a little while and a few other channels. Um, and basically, then I wasn't really much like awoke and into my walk of faith, let's say, but certain certain channels and certain videos kind of just edged me to where I am now,
Yeah.
and that's when my original channel was Friends in Truth, and then I created the channel Yahuwah's Word is King,
Right.
and tried to keep that more based on the Word, really.
Yeah.
And
And when you say word, expand on that because I'm not sure people are picking up what you're putting down when you talk about the word and the letters, the Hebrew
well,
letters.
I'm not, although I'm sort of have a fairly good knowledge of the scriptures and that, as everybody does, they add to it daily, I suppose. Um, I can't really recall. Some people have the ability to recall verse and scripture and chapter and verse and that sort of thing. So I don't. I can I can do that to a certain extent, but I'm not that good as others would be. But basically, the word, uh, in my understanding of it, is the word was with God, and the word was God, and that's how
Yeah.
it came to be.
Yeah. So
So
So I'll just let me interrupt real quick. So what Mark does is he takes Hebrew letter all the way back to its oldest roots. So it's like a flow chart So he starts with the oldest iterations of the letter and he puts it all on a whiteboard. And then he goes down and he shows exactly the progression of that letter and how it's been used by the dark side, like the Egyptians, hieroglyphs, but then also how it's used by God's holy people. In many instances, these individual Hebrew letters actually oppose one another almost, don't they sometimes, Mark? They almost look like one is the opposite of the other in the same
Oh
letter.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's what because I had all this time as well. Like I said before, um, so I was doing a little bit of educating myself and continuing a hobby that I'd already had for quite a while of studying language and the ancient Middle East, if you like. And when I become more awoke to like this, uh, what would be the word? Awakening to my scriptural faith path.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I realized that the thing that I had been looking at before, which was like Egyptian language, um, was comparable with the Hebrew language. And that's how I kind of started on that. I had a book which went into depth on the original sources of language. And when you compared the Hebrew, the original Paleo Hebrew language, to the Egyptian language, there was quite a few similarities. So I decided to make a video about it and show people what I'd found.
Yeah.
And in the same way that Moshe was familiar with you know uh, the laws and ways of Egypt, he was also a Hebrew, so he understood both.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a way, I was kind of granted like a little view into that perspective of things.
Yeah.
And
Now here, so what? So you've gone through each individual letter. You've dedicated an entire show to each letter. Which letter are you on now? You've done like 20 letters, right?
yeah, I'm getting up nearly to the end. I think there's about 3 or 4 left now, but you know, things happen and things are thrown in your way, and uh, it kind of hinders the idealistic um time span that you put on things to get things done. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
dragged on a bit longer than what I wanted, but
Yeah.
hopefully I'll get to the end. Um, but I'm on Sade at the moment. I'm still working on that,
Mm-hmm.
and that is actually the meaning behind it is the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
that'll be
Sade
interesting.
is the way.
So you guys, if in case you're listening right now, I put a link to Mark's channel in the pinned comment. Okay, a lot of people are asking who is Mark, where's his channel. It's in the pinned comment of the show. I already put it there. Now, Mark's told me a funny story because he did have some detours in his awakening as he started looking at these Hebrew letters. I think at one time he was kind of putting a lot of focus on looking at the black people as the root of the Hebrews, and you've come away from that now because of a particular incident that happened to you, Mark, when you went into London to attend one of these Hebrew roots gatherings. And tell us what exactly
Right.
happened and how they. Now, just to put things in perspective, this is a white guy showing up to an all black Hebrew roots um, gathering,
Yeah.
right, Mark? Tell us a story about that because it was funny.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know whether you guys have how far you've sort of delved into uh, this whole awakening of faith that's been going on over the past couple of years. But there seems to be, in my experience anyhow, um, it has certain roots for different aspects of different cultures and different groups of people, and everybody, as well, I've come to the understanding of, everybody claims to profess that their way is the correct way,
or that they're the original tribes, and people
or
get
they're the original,
right,
yeah,
and people
yeah,
get hung up on the race of it, and
right,
yeah,
right, yeah, the whole issue of color and creed and thing like that, So, and that goes way deep. Um, and I have, on my walk, I've met a couple of people, Casey being one, and another person is a friend of mine in Barbados, and he's obviously um, of the color of people that would live in Barbados. Let's put it like that. And so I remember I'm this white guy who's on this scriptural walk, and we both get on great, because we've come to the realization that uh, it's not about color.
yes,
The color is the division that
that's the
the
dividing tool.
that the adversary uses to discriminate and pigeonhole people,
Right.
and it works on whoever is susceptible to for it to work on, because you can fall into the snare and the trap of color and race. And I mean, you've even had it on your channel with people who say, I didn't realize you were a certain person
Hmm.
based on the sound of your talk, right?
Right. I just got called an Uncle Tom, by the way, in the chat. I put him on timeout. The
Okay,
point here,
there you
you
go.
guys, is that there are scriptures in the Bible that talk about trying to trace your roots back, and showing how fruitless it is. There's an actual biblical precedent for this, and that we're not supposed to be trying to do this and start trying to claim ownership of the tribes. If you're part of the tribes, great. But if you go around calling everyone else a devil because they're white, which is kind of almost what happened to Mark when he went to this
Oh yeah,
event. Tell us what happened on
yeah,
the
yeah.
event, Mark.
Oh yeah. So yeah, they were. It was a certain channel that I'd started to follow a few years back, and they were based in California, I think. And there was a there was two of the people that were hosting this event. They'd been on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, Israel,
Right.
and on their way back uh, from there to going home back to America, they had a stop off in London, and then they kind of put it out on their channel that they were going to do like a meet up. So I decided to, in my naivety, to go along to see what they had to say, and just generally, have a kind of a fellowship and a meet up, and gain something from it. And I did. I went along. I got the train up to the capital, and um, eventually found this hotel where they were hosting this thing, and walked in, and they're all like different to me, and but generally nice people, I must say, and they gave a talk and a kind of a lecture, improvised lecture thing, and I put my hand up a few times and asked a few questions, and but then you gained the kind of picture and the impression that they were they were kind of more, you know, uh,
I know it's probably awkward to talk about being a white guy,
yeah,
but let it out. Let it
yeah,
out, Mark. Tell us what's going on.
right, kind of more, um,
Nationalist, racist in the opposite
right,
direction. Like, what are
kind
you
of,
doing
yeah,
here? why are you here at
Right.
our meeting?
Yeah.
Like, what's the
Right.
angle here? And you at that time, I remember speaking to you, and
Yeah.
you had went into this. You went into the. You were like, man, Jesus is black, and that you were during that time you were into that. But then you
Hmm.
saw how racism can go both ways, and how people can look
Right.
at you and think you're the devil just because of this color of your skin.
Right. They basically kind of claimed ownership of salvation, if you know what I mean.
Right.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell. You
Yeah.
know, it was only for them, and anybody else was kind of out of it. And my friend, the guy from Barbados, he used to be in one of the camps. In one of the cities. The ones that meet on the street corners
Mm.
and read from the word, and they're pretty hot on the word. But he realizes that how wrong he was. That that isn't the be all and end all of salvation. It's not about color, and it's not about race. It's about what's in your heart.
Jews and Gentiles is what
Yeah,
Jesus came. So
nation.
he doesn't want
That
us fighting over color. He
you
doesn't want
call
us
it.
condemning each other because of our color.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't, if he was here now. Would he differentiate between people?
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it's our heart that should
It's the heart.
be the thing that condemns us, and it's our words ultimately that
Yeah.
will will do that. And
Yeah.
people just are quick to judge and throw stones, But
Right. And you guys can probably sense the level of humility that Mark has. I mean, this is even hard for him to talk about, but I wanted to kind of
kind of is.
take him out
You
of his
kind of caught
comfort.
me on the hop, dude.
I wanted to take Mark out of his comfort zone so you could see the kind of guy he is and the journey that he's been on, and that it's real, and that we all go through this spiritual awakening, and we bump into things and we go down wrong corridors, and then we bring ourselves right back out, and that's why I have a lot of respect for Mark, because he learned from that experience. And not to say that he doesn't believe that Jesus may have been of color. He just doesn't. He's not so focused on it, and so
Right.
exclusive to that concept. He's seeing things as
Exactly.
the whole, which is what Jesus wants us to do. Now, there's a
Yeah.
couple more questions in the chat. Someone asked if
Okay.
healthcare, is healthcare free in England?
I believe healthcare. So they're obviously not from the UK, so they probably
Have
don't
no
really
idea.
have information on that. Maybe I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But anyhow, there is such a thing as I don't know whether you guys over there have like a health care system. Do you have? Is it like
Yeah,
kind
for
of like
people of low income.
was kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have that. We have like uh, if say you like myself, when I had my traffic accident, I was picked up by the ambulance, taken off to the hospital, had my repair work done and ongoing treatment, and that was all from the healthcare contributions that I paid throughout my working life. So
Mhm.
we have that, kind of like it's a on running concurrent like private Medicare thing. You know, if
Mhm.
you think in terms of private Medicare as like an upgrade on your basic package, if you know what I mean. So we have that over here, and there's a whole can of worms that can be gotten into from that, because people assume that people exploit it, and there probably are people that exploit it, even down to like the furlough system, and the like the handout that they're giving to all these businesses with the CV thing,
Mhm.
and we've spoken on it before, and you've done videos on it, that they want you to accept this, because in a way you're kind of like a cornered mouse, and you just got no option but to take it. But once you take it, like with the VC,
Mhm.
we're cornered little creatures now, at the mercy of the adversary with a syringe in his hand. And I, for one, I'm not going to take it. They'll have to take me out before I take it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Had another question in the chat. Someone asked about 5G Whiz, and so we can, when we mention the name from now on, we'll call it 5G Whiz.
Yeah. 5G Whiz.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what's going on with that?
Yeah, they're here.
They're here.
Yeah, they're here. They're everywhere. And like I say, in the small town, I can only speak from my experience. I don't want to profess to know everything. But in our small town, we have like a fire station.
Mhm.
And on the top of their like exercise thing where they do their like jump offs and ladder runs and whatever, they have all these 5G transmitters and stuff fixed to the top of that. So kind of like the high spot of the town, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets good coverage, I suppose. So pretty much wherever you go there, if you look up, the answers there. If you look up, it's just there waiting. And I don't know. I mean, is it a good thing? Is it detrimental to our health? Well, I don't know. I've seen opinions for both, and I think ultimately it's down to ourselves to either like move away if you can. You know, if you can get out of the cities, that's one bit of advice I would say is get out of the cities. You know, Egypt was a country of you know, big communities, you know, all nestled around areas of population, and that's why the chosen people had to leave, because it was too congested and overpowered by the controlling factor, which is Pharaoh.
Yeah. I'm looking up your channel. Maybe people are not finding it's in the pinned comments, you guys, not in the chat. Here it is, right here. You his word is king. Let's pull that up and
yeah. If you do, thanks to you, Casey. I mean, I've got what's that? Nearly 2.6K subscribers now. So
that's great.
It's kind of getting up there. It's took a while, 5 years, but hey, you know.
Yeah, you deserve every bit of it, man. You put a lot of effort into your channel, you know, and I just put it in the chat now.
Thanks.
And I pinned it.
I will say that, you know, people coming to the channel are generally pretty friendly. But you will find things on there that maybe take you by surprise, because if you just have come into reading the Bible from like a church Christian background, then my work is gonna give you a different perspective, hopefully.
Yeah. Now, someone asked about, back to questions in the chat. Someone, I just saw a really good question actually. They asked, are they in the news? Are they beating the daily drum of new cases for CV?
Oh yeah. Dude. Yeah. They're, well, from the beginning, I have to say that with my walk reading the word, I notice, like you do, the numbers. You know, maybe you'll say a bit on that in a minute, but the repetitive numbers that are used throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament are repeated over and over and over again, and pretty much there's too many to mention, but they use those numbers for their good.
Right. It's part of like sorcery. It's sorcery. So they use these numbers, and somehow, like the number 88, for instance, somehow it does something to us when we hear these numbers over and over again.
Yeah. And I noticed from the beginning, way back, that when you had a news report or something, it would always be the same old numbers rolled out, and bearing in mind, like you guys have in the States, you have like different TV stations for different areas, right?
Right.
So every area, if you're out of state or something, you're not going to see what's going on unless you've got good cable or something in the news 3 states over or something. So you're not going to see the numbers that they're pushing. But when you look at the big picture, I remember I watched a video once, and it had like a whole barrage of different news uh, feeds from across the country, and they were all repeating the same agenda and speech from their news bulletins.
Right. It's
And
over and over. It's like you repeat the same exact thing.
it's repeated and repeated over and over again. But if you don't see the big picture, you're only seeing a small part of the picture. And the numbers that they're using, and they just roll them out, and they might tweak them a bit and switch them around and turn them upside down and back to
Yeah.
front.
Yeah. Like how
Or
much?
a whole
Like how much
Yeah, go
stimulus
on.
money did they hand out? What was the number on that? We had like 1,200, I think.
Yeah, we had I believe it was 1,200. So I mean
1,200
12, you know
pound.
what 12 oh 1,200 pound, yeah.
Oh, so you guys got more because we got $1,200, and a pound is worth more than a dollar. So
Kind of it's kind of, I don't know. According to my son, he's getting into like the financial trading thing since leaving school. So he's like watching the markets and stuff, but it kind of goes against my whole thing really. But
whoa, you
hey
guys got
man,
$1,600 and 1621 dollars and 46 cents. That's the conversion. So you guys
yeah,
got a little bit
there's a
more.
bit of a distinction there, but
Yeah.
anyhow, yeah, they it was about 1,200 UK pounds, I think,
Now
and
are they?
that rolled out a couple of times, I think.
Oh, okay. So we
But
got.
I never took it.
Yeah.
They can keep it.
Now, some of your children were in school. Did they require? Do they require VCs for children to enter school in the UK?
Good, good, you brought that up because I think that is on the cards in 2021 when they go back
Mm-hmm.
allegedly from the fourth. So from like the first weekend, then they're going to be um, rolling out the uh, CV test. Not the vaccine yet, I don't think, but it's definitely the test. You're going to have a test to enter the school premises.
Oh, jeez. But before that, were they requiring VCs before all this hit for school children?
What in the schools? No,
Okay. Well, that's good.
no,
There were no
not
mandates in
not.
any parts of the country, or just.
No, I think basically they're just targeting like healthcare workers, like if you're like in the medical profession, because obviously you've got to be protected from whatever's going to harm you. So if there's nobody to look after you, then there's nobody to look after you. So
Right.
that's what the way they work with that one. And then, like I said earlier, the population that are, and there's no getting away from it, at the end of their life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My father was 82 when he passed away, and the biblical age limit is three score and 10, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember.
Yeah.
So everybody, and I don't want to upset anybody, or I'm just talking factually here. Um, when you get to that age, it's knocking at the door. You
Right.
know,
Right.
it's the next chapter in the book is the end chapter. So
Mm-hmm. Now,
uh,
yeah.
mm,
Are the are
maybe
the
I better stop.
hospitals packed over there?
Like I say, I haven't had, thankfully, I'm blessed. I haven't had to go to a hospital, but a lot of the people that I actually work for are elderly people.
Mm-hmm.
I do their gardens and help them out with with chores that they can't do for themselves. And since the whole CV thing started, I've been going to these maybe dozen different people throughout,
Mm-hmm.
and none of them, thankfully, have succumbed to any major illness or other than what they had underlying anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and help them spiritually as well as I do physically, so
Yeah.
um, and try and uplift them a bit if I can. But people are so, after 80 years of being on this in this world, you're pretty much brainwashed to the max anyhow,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's hard.
I mean, it gets to
Although
that point.
what I will say is that a lot of people do find faith, or
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to find faith before they check out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you have an opening that maybe you can like stick a jemmy bar in and kind of jemmy your way in and help them a
Yeah.
bit, but
You
it's
know,
difficult.
yeah. Just before the show, Mark and I were talking about this palsy, this Bell's
Oh
palsy
yeah.
that they've been talking about, and
Hmm.
of course, the powers that be are trying to say there's no connection between the incidence of Bell palsy and the VC, but yet they won't tell us the
Hmm.
time proximity between the administration of the VC and the event of Bell's palsy, because if it happened directly after it, then there would probably be a connection, but they're not telling us that information. But one thing Mark and I noticed was that this fits into the Janus thing that we've been talking about, how one side of the face is different than the other side of the face. And I thought that was an interesting perspective as well.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like almost the visualization of the two sides of the same coin kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yep, yep, exactly, which is exactly what we're going to. Now, I know, Mark, you got to probably get on with your day, so I just want to leave you the last 5 minutes for any final
Okay.
thoughts. And yeah, so go ahead.
Okay. What can I say? Well, um, basically, have faith. Um, this, I believe, is all about where your faith lies. It's are you putting your faith in man for your salvation, or are you hoping and praying daily for um, salvation through the Most High? Because that is the only way, and they know that. And I mentioned to you before, didn't I, about the Queen's speech,
Hmm.
which I quickly caught yesterday, um, and she was making an even more prominent sort of um, point on bringing in the biblical aspect in
Hmm.
her speech.
Yeah, this is the Queen, you
And
guys. The Queen started
yeah,
talking about Jesus and what else?
you can all check that out. I mean, it's on YouTube, so you'll be able to find it out. But if you go back previously in previous years, it's not really um, playing such a big part in her speech. So, maybe as people get older, like I said before, people awaken to the next stage in their life, and the next stage in their life when you're three score and 10 plus is ultimately the one you've been trying to avoid all your life anyway, but there's no getting away from it. And uh, you know there's only one way out,
Yep,
and
exactly.
one way back to the Father, and that's through the Anointed One.
Yeah,
I'm using that terminology now
yeah, that's good.
because, like you said before, with the whole color uh, uh, division, nobody can argue about the Anointed One.
Exactly.
It's the Anointed One, whatever language you use, or whatever color or race you're from or claim to be from. So the Anointed One is the only one who's going to give us salvation.
Absolutely.
And everybody knows who that is, whether you're Greek, Hebrew, Russian, Chinese, whatever.
I like the way you put that, Mark. Thanks for that. And I'm really happy that we were able to do this live show. We're actually doing the
Yeah,
show
thanks.
through StreamYard right now. And I got that from KJ, Scariest Movie Ever. When I went on his show last, he was using a StreamYard. So that's what we're going to use from now on. We haven't had any problems. Sound's coming
Yeah,
through
this is
great.
pretty good. We haven't
Yeah.
been taken down once.
Yeah, everything's
That's
coming through
pretty
real
good.
loud and clear. So
Yeah,
we're gonna have Mark on more often and get his perspective on some stuff. We do have some projects we're kind of
that's cool.
been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've got a few things working on. One thing I would like to say is I wish everybody well and peace and happiness to everybody, and keep keep reading the word. Stay
absolutely.
strong in the faith.
Stay strong in the faith, everybody. All right, we're gonna end the show there. Much love to everybody. Take care and be safe, you guys.
Thanks, Casey. Thank you.
Thanks.